All right, guys, welcome back. I'm going to tell y'all how a web page is built and the three languages that work together to make one. The three languages that work together to make the front end of a web page are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML is known as a markup language, not an object-oriented language, because it does not contain variables or algorithms. All it does is it tags or marks up the content of a web page to show the browser what each part of the document is for. So it will say this part is a header, this part is an image, this part is a paragraph, etc., etc. So it sets up the structure or the skeleton of the web page, which is why you see the skeleton picture on the left. So that's the basis for the other two languages. CSS is a style sheet language, which is used to stylize a marked up document. So CSS refers to the HTML document and tells each element that is marked up in the HTML document how to look. For example, it will say all headers should have a black background and orange text, or all paragraphs should have red text and a 12-point font size, or something like that. But basically, CSS's job is to control how things on the page look, and only how they look. And that's it. Not their content, not their behavior, just how they look. JavaScript, its job is to control how these elements behave, which is why it's the muscles of the page. So it is an object-oriented language, so it does have variables and objects and algorithms. It's used to control the processes that occur on the web page. So that would be if you click this button, then these things will happen. This button sends a request to the server. This button changes that other element's styles or something like that. That would all be JavaScript's job. So HTML is the skeleton, the base, but all three languages work together in tandem to produce a web page. HTML is made up of opening and closing tags to denote certain parts of the document as belonging to certain elements. So everything that you see on a web page, absolutely everything, is an HTML element. Every picture, every button, everything that you see is an element. And HTML knows where they are based on the opening and closing tags. And CSS and JavaScript acts upon those elements. So a title element would look like opening tag title. This will show up on the browser tab. Closing tag title. The browser tab is at the top of your browser window, and it's just a bunch of text. That's what the title element is used for. Every element has a type or tag name, and that controls how the browser will use that element or how it will be treated. The next one is a header or heading, which is basically just text that's a little bit larger. And P is a paragraph, which is regular or small text. Elements can be inside of other elements, and this can create a flow or tree of objects known as the document object model, which is the overall structure of the web page that HTML sets up. If you were to draw it out, it would look something like this. The document is the entire web page. So the whole page is called document. It's contained in a root element called HTML. So there is an element that contains all of the elements on the page called HTML, and that contains two elements inside of it called head and body. The head element contains information that is used to display the page, but you don't see any of that stuff on the page. The body is the stuff that you actually see on the page. So that would be links, headers, etc., images. The head would be the character set. For example, what letters are being used, English letters, Japanese characters. What letters are being used to display the page? How big is the screen? Um, which document contains the style sheet? All of that stuff would be inside the body. And some elements exist only to contain other elements, and it might not make sense now why that's necessary, so I'll explain that in the next following videos. Just know for now that you can put elements inside other elements, and that's why the document is drawn as a tree. Here are the most common tag names. Don't try to memorize these now, but just know that you can use these. You can have elements for paragraphs, for headers. If you want to put a link into your page, that tag name is called A. Button is a button. I know, super descriptive. IMG is the tag name for an image. Table for a table. UL is an unordered list. OL is an ordered list. Unordered means bullet points, and ordered means numbers or letters. And inside each of those elements, to put items in those lists, you would put list item elements in there. The title element is the title of the page. That would be in the head, not the body. And div is an element that mostly serves as a container for other elements. Here's a good way to show how elements are written. It's color coded so you guys can see which parts are which. Every element has to have an opening tag. This is non-negotiable. If there is no opening tag, it doesn't exist according to the browser. The opening tag, for example, would be less than symbol to start a starting tag, and then the tag name. The tag name comes right after the less than symbol. That would be either P if it's a paragraph, IMG if it's an image, or whatever element type you want to be there. And then inside of the opening tag, you can also list what are called attributes, which provide more information for that element. For example, if you have an image element, you need to tell the browser what image is displayed there. So you'll have an attribute called source, which is shortened to SRC, which contains the pathway to the image, and which is where to find the image file. But there are lots of other ones, such as class and ID, which allow CSS or JavaScript to identify that element specifically. You can have as many attributes as you want, and they can be listed in any order. Any of those would be put into the opening tag. And then what comes after that is a greater than symbol, which denotes the end of the opening tag. And also, therefore, the end of the arguments or the end of the attributes. Then you can write the inner HTML content. Some elements don't need this. For example, the image element does not have any inner HTML content. Headers do, paragraph elements do. And then to denote that you're done writing that, you write the ending tag, which looks the same as the opening tag, but it has a slash in it. So less than symbol, slash, tag name, greater than symbol. That is the ending tag. Not all elements need an ending tag. The only elements that need one are elements that have inner HTML content, and that is the stuff in between the starting tag and the ending tag. So image elements don't need an ending tag. Links need it. Yeah, we'll go over that a little bit more later, but some elements don't need an ending tag. And then the whole element consists of the opening tag, the content, the inner HTML content, and the closing tag. That whole thing is one element. All right, let's try this out in a Replit project. So if you create a new REPL, we're going to use a different template for this than we were doing with Python. So up until now, we've been using Python for our REPLs, but now we're going to use HTML, CSS, JS for our REPL templates. So pick this template for your REPL and call this a blog post. We're going to be working on this blog post over several lessons. Create a new REPL. Here's what you'll see in the HTML file. It already wrote some stuff for you, and it created the 3 documents already: the HTML document, the JavaScript document, and the CSS document. We're not going to do anything in the JavaScript or the CSS just yet. We're just going to focus on the HTML. Here's the head element. The starting tag is here. This is the beginning of the head. This is the end of the head. So all of this is the head element, and here are the elements inside the head element. 2 meta elements, which provide information to the browser. The title element, which is what's displayed in the browser tab. This is the browser tab. And a link element, which links a file to this file. It's linking the style sheet, which is style.css, to this file so that it knows which file to use as the style sheet. And the body is here. All of this is the body. This is the starting tag for the body. This is the ending tag for the body. This right here, /HTML, this is the end of the whole document. So anything that you put after here will not be read by the browser. We have a text node here that's not inside of an element called Hello World. I would highly suggest you delete this because since it's not inside of an element, you can't style it or do anything with it using scripts. Then we have a script element, script source equals script.js. This loads our script document into our HTML file so that the scripts can load in our document. And then there's another script loaded into our document that is located on the web. The script places a badge on your REPL's full browser view page to your REPL's cover page. Here's how it looks. It's just a little button in the corner of your page. If you don't really care for this button, you can delete this comment and this second script tag. You don't really need it. So now the only thing in the body is a single element, a single script element. Keep this. You'll need it to have scripts run on your page. But either above or below it doesn't really matter. You can add the elements that will show on your page. So let's try adding a header. Start with the opening tag, less than symbol, tag name, header 1. Header 1 is the biggest header. If you close the opening tag, it will automatically write the closing tag for you and then put your cursor in between so that you can write in between. I'm going to make this about my cat because I love my cat to death. So the header is going to say my cat. This is what it will look like. See how the text is a little bit bigger than Hello World because this is a header, not a paragraph. Header 1 is the biggest header. You can also use smaller headers and by changing the number. So header 2 is slightly smaller than header 1. See how header 2 is just a little bit smaller than header 1? That is what they're used for subheaders. So I have a header and I have a subheader. These elements are placed underneath each other because they don't have, first of all, because they don't have the width to fit next to each other, and because they're block level elements, I'll explain what those are in following lessons. Let's put a list in here. I'm going to make a list of reasons why I love my cat. It's going to be an unordered list because they're not in any particular order. So to make an unordered list, we make an element called UL, unordered list. And since we're going to put multiple things inside this element, I'm going to press enter and put each element, each sub element in on a new line. And the elements inside this element are called list item. Number one reason why I love my cat, even though they're not going to be numbered, is because he's so cute. See how there's a bullet point? Because it's a part of an ordered list element. Unordered list, my bad. Another list item, because he's furry. Second list item, 2 bullet pointed items in a list. Say I want to put a picture of my cat underneath this big header that says my cat. Then I'll put an element right here underneath this header element, this header 1. Image elements do not need a closing tag, so I'll write everything inside of the opening tag. I can't just say image like this because then it doesn't know what image to display. So this image element is going to require an attribute called source. Attributes are displayed in this light blue color unless you specify otherwise. And then we need to give it a value, equals, and then in quotes you will either put a pathway to an image that is uploaded to the file list in Replit, or you can put the address to an image. So if you want to put an address to a web image, you can search for an image on the web. Say I wanted to put a picture of this cat. I would right click on it and then select copy image address. And then I would paste that image address in those quotes. So the image source is a web address. That's a huge image, but it is in fact the image that I chose. To make it a little smaller without using the CSS document, I'm going to do what's called an inline style and add more attributes. Another attribute called width that will tell it how wide I want it to be. 200 pixels seems like it's a pretty good size. Perfect, now I can see the whole image. That is not actually my cat. So I'm going to upload a picture of my cat and put it there so you guys can see what my cat actually looks like. All right, so I got a picture of my cat. I'm going to drag it over to the file area from my file explorer. There you can see it. It's called catblanky.jpg. So now instead of this web address, I'm going to write a local address, cat._blanky.jpg. Now it will display my cat. So we have a header, an image, a list. Now let's try putting a link in here. A link tag name is called A. I'm going to make the link say, click here to get your own cat. So maybe somebody sees this cat and they think, oh, it's so cute. I'm jealous. I want to get my own cat. It doesn't look like a link though, because A elements have a required attribute called href, which is where the link element will send the person who clicks on it. So the link address. And I want the person who clicks on the link to be sent to the website of the place where I got my cat, which is Pets in Need. This is the organization I got my cat from. So I'm going to have the person be sent to this website, petsinneed.org. That's the link that they will be sent to when they click on the link element. And it needs a closing tag because it has inner HTML, and the inner HTML is what will be displayed. So now it says, click here to get your own cat. You click on it, it sends you to the link URL. So there you go. Now you have a very basic web page. Play around with it for a bit to get the hang of HTML elements, and see you next time.